Hello everyone, welcome to JobSkillshare.com. Today the video is about BMCTrack IT, and just before I start my video, if you're a new member and just joining in from YouTube, this is basically a course which is Helpdesk Support Specialist 2014, and this video is a part of this course which is free. So if you're joining in for BMC ticketing system or any helpdesk related, you might want to join this course to understand where we are, or else it will be confusing. So this is why I wanted to explain. This is what I'm going to do in every video, to basically talk about like where is it coming from. So what you do is basically, if you're a new member, you register to this site JobSkillshare.com, then you go to basically course catalog, and then you click on this course right here, go to the course, and then you see this course right here. Once you're in, you go to click on learning path, and today the video is about BMCTrack IT. So we're gonna go down all the way to BMCTrack IT is right here on the bottom. Let me make it a little bit fit to the screen so then you guys can see what I'm talking about. So here, this is what I was talking about, BMCTrack IT. So you guys see the first video, which is 9 minutes. That's also a good video about Track IT, but I thought it was a little bit smaller, and then I found original video from BMCTrack IT team. They made a great job by putting a whole 1 hour video, and I'm just starting from the part where Helpdesk would need it. Before it is they talk about modules and stuff like that, which mostly is for admins and how when they install it and what they can do and stuff like that. So but our part is more towards Helpdesk side of learning. So I'm gonna put that video right below this video, this is going to say a summary for BMCTrack IT. Below this video it's going to say full detail about BMCTrack IT training, so you guys can get benefit out of it. You guys can quickly go through this or go through a 30 or 40 minutes video, which is going to help you guys a lot. BMCTrack IT is a pretty big one, so you might want to learn that, because a lot of companies are using BMC Remedy, and now I think it's becoming a BMCTrack IT these days. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video from the site. I'm going to also provide the link if you guys want to see a full 60-minute videos. You guys can do that too. You might need some Java installed on your computer and stuff like that, but let me go ahead and start it, and it will be coming from that video, the voice and everything. So there you go.
Before I forget about the slash, so the website I'm talking about is demo.trackit.com. That brings you to the technician web interface. Now once the login, you'll see in light gray, if you can see it, asterisk says leave blank, just leave it blank. Click your login, and you're in. You're into that interface. If you're on a mobile phone, it'll also populate demo, but it'll give you the mobile interface. And then you can tweak and modify, and you have full capabilities from here. It is just the web. You don't have the GUI, so you don't have any set up admin rights here. The slash I referenced earlier, demo.trackit.com/self-service. If you want to take a look at the self-service web, that's all you have to key in. That'll bring you to the self-service login prompt. Looks almost the same. If it's not already entered for you, enter demo user, all one word, no password, click login, and you get the self-service web interface, which of course is a much simpler interface for obvious reasons. There are no announcements. You will see announcements in my interface. So I'm going to go ahead and log out of this. We're going to go ahead and close that tab. That's how you log into that. You can do that during the presentation at any point in time. I am going to go ahead and bounce back over here to the tech client and talk about the tech client, at least to start us off with here. This is the GUI, the Windows install, the FAT client Track It is client server. It is something, if you're brand new to Track It, that you are going to download and run in your environment. Good news is it's really simple. Again, 0 to Helpdesk in 60 minutes is our motto there. The single file that you download, it's an executable. If you're downloading an eval without a license file, you can click 30-day trial option. It's going to give you demo days, allow you to take a look at Track It. If you do install with a license file, which you can call your account rep here in Tampa, they'll give you a trial license file for 30 days. You can install with the license file, and it'll be just like installing as if you've already purchased. It'll ask you a few more questions during the install, like, do you own SQL Server? If yes, where is it? Just browse out to your SQL Server, and you can install the Track It database against your existing SQL box. Alternately, you could say no, or I'd prefer to use SQL Express. Track It will say, great, would you like us to download that and install it for you from the Microsoft website? Of course, your answer is yes. Why would you want to do that manually when Track It will do it for you? It'll download, it'll do that. It'll ask you, do you want the web components? Your answer is going to be yes if you want them internal. Your answer might be no if you want to make them available to the web, because you might want to install them on a separate server that's in a DMZ that'll provide more security as you make it available over the internet. And you might want, before you do that, have a talk with tech support, because they're going to suggest, or I'm going to suggest right now, that when you install the SQL database, do it to a separate instance of SQL that is running on a non-standard port. Everybody knows the SQL port is 1433. You don't want to use that port, because that's really the only thing that you're going to have open. If you do decide to make your web components available publicly on the internet, you're going to open between your DMZ server and your SQL server that SQL port. You don't want it to be 1433. That's a security risk. Of course, there are other ways to mitigate that, but it's just as easy if you make it 99573 or something else quasi-random. At any rate, during the install, when that's all done, you are going to get the first tech client, as you see here. That's going to install automatically on your Track It server. You're going to get a configuration wizard that's going to take you through your setup. You're also going to get a cool Getting Started pane over here on the right side that I'm going to bring up manually. That goes through the same steps as the configuration wizard. Rather than running through the wizard, which is a little boring, I'm going to click and I'm going to run through the Getting Started pane over here on the right side. And I'm going to talk a little bit about layout and redundancy. I do have links throughout the Getting Started guide here. These are links to set up items for Track It. You can literally follow this from the top down and get to that 70-80% setup state for Track It and be up and running. There's a lot of redundancy in Track It. You see an admin console link here under Quick Start. You see an administration console link over here on the left. All my modules are down here in the bottom right. I have mine collapsed, much like you can and do in Outlook. The Outlook centric view is entirely on purpose. It's very familiar to most people. You can also get to your admin console from up here. So that's our navigation. If I move into the help desk, that's helpful. I also have helpful setup links under C also here that are specific to the module that you're in. These are specific to the help desk. If I go into inventory, the also links are specific to inventory. But I like to start with my Getting Started guide over here on the right side. One of the first things I recommend that you do, configure your directory importer. It's really straightforward. Again, it puts you right into the administration console. Rather than put you up at the top at some random spot, it puts you right in the right place for a directory importer. Pretty straightforward. For most of you, 99.5%, you won't have to do anything here. You can go to directory service and verify that that's your domain. It's really simple. Track It goes on a Windows server. That Windows server is on a domain. That domain will appear here. Domain selection and licensing, click users, click the add button. That'll browse you out to organizational units where you can bring in your users, and then you can decide whether or not you're going to provide all of the users in that OU access to self-service web automatically, or whether or not you want to skip and do that manually by department or by location or one at a time or use some other methodology. You're not necessarily going to
I just had to stop it over here. Just a point to Helpdesk technicians or new Helpdesk employees. you're not going to be doing this part. You're not going to be playing with Active Directory integrations and all that. This part that he's talking about will be already done by either a manager, administrator, network engineer, or application system manager, or someone that who deals with applications and anything like that. If you're a one IT person that has to do everything for the company, then yeah, you basically do it. But most of the time, Helpdesk team, this will be done for you. You're gonna go through directly to a website where you're gonna have some rights, not full admin rights, but then some rights to, like, take calls, assign calls, and stuff like that. So just a point to be, you don't get confused when you see this. Oh, am I gonna do all this? So I think most of the time you're not gonna be doing this, but it's good to know how is it basically working in the whole BMC stuff or any other ticketing system. How's it working from the base? So it's good to know. All right, I'm gonna start it again.
Your users access to self-service web, but the more users that you have that do have access to self-service, the more efficient you're going to be. You're going to be able to decide exactly what fields you want to bring over from AD. As you see here in the gray at field mapping, I have the lists and the fields that are in Track IT. Over here in the second column over to the right in white, these are the fields in Active Directory. Just click the drop down there and you'll be able to select and pick any field that's in AD to match to any field in Track IT. Well, also, you may have noticed that I don't have a user def 1, I have a user def 2. That implies there's user def 1. Well, I've relabeled that one to manager, and I've mapped that opposite of the manager field from Active Directory. You can also relabel any field in Track IT. Click on that field and Control F2. I'll mention that now because I'm not sure if I'll mention it later on in our presentation. And of course, this is one of the many processes, most of which that can be automated in Track IT. Mine is set to do not automatically import because I have pretend data in here. I'm not importing on a regular basis. I don't have too many changes. But you're going to probably go with the defaults of run every day at midnight, which will be set to automatically when you install Track. Or you can pick a different value every 60 minutes, 120 minutes, every 10 minutes if you want, which I have seen. And then anybody added or removed from what you use, they're going to automatically be brought into Track IT or removed from Track IT at your option. When you do your first setup, you have an import now button that'll do that initial import of all your users. Pretty straightforward. So they'll have self-service access, hopefully, on that import. Then you're already ready to move on to step 2 here, which is setting up inventory. First step, configure your asset discovery. This is a step 1 of a 2-step process for inventory asset data collection. Discovery can go by domain, it can go by OU, or it can go using my favorite methodology, IP scans, which also leverages SNMP. So anything out there that's running SNMP, like a printer, like a router, like a switch potentially maybe, Track IT will leverage that SNMP data and pull that in during that discovery process. Your IP ranges are set up here. You can key in as many different subnets as you want. Anything out there that responds to a ping, Track IT will discover. That will, of course, be your servers, your desktops, and your laptops. It will also be printers, routers, switches. Again, all it needs to do is respond to a ping, and Track IT will discover it. Absolutely that simple. Now, the key on computers is computers are probably not going to be running SNMP. So don't worry, we're only going to collect basic information on them from here. Typically, it's only going to be a computer host name and an IP address. Depending on your subnetting, we might get a MAC address during the process for your Windows machine. But don't worry, we have a step 2 for them, and that would be auditing. Again, over here on the right, I do have another shortcut for auditing, but it's one spot down in my tree, so I'll stay here in the admin console. The keys for an automated audit: setup credentials. This should be a domain admin or equivalent account with a proper password key tag. If you have a service account that's a domain admin or equivalent, that's ideal to put here. We're going to use this account to leverage auditing. We're going to push an agent out to the machines to facilitate that auditing process. The first time the audit runs, the machine will get an agent. From that point in time, we're just going to query the agent, verify it's up to date, then go ahead and initiate the audit. Very quick process. A little bit longer the first time, but don't worry, we're only going to queue up 2 machines at a time, so we're not going to overwhelm your network. basically from that point forward, just click Enable, pick a time for it to kick off, pick a day of the week or a day of the month typically, or you can specify specific dates for it to run and only those dates. Entirely up to you how you do it. Probably most people are doing it monthly, and second most frequent is one day of the week. Wednesdays is very popular. And then the audit will kick off and run at that point in time. Automatically audit all those Windows workstations that you brought in, servers, desktops, and laptops. Report all the hardware, everything you see in Device Manager. Report all the software, everything you see in Add, Remove Programs, Programs and Features. From a hardware perspective, right down to the memory and number of memory modules that you have and the number of memory slots, the serial number from the BIOS of the PC, of the CPU, serial numbers of the hard drive, any peripherals, printers, monitors, mice, keyboards, sound card, video card, network printers if they're present, we're going to pick that up. All the software right down to the serial number pulled right out of the registry. All good stuff, all automated. And we're going to associate the user to the workstation during this process. So another integration into those users that you brought in early on. Then you can go ahead and come in here and configure your Helpdesk basics. You can configure your business hours, and then you can further configure rules which will respect these business hours. Most of your tickets are going to respect your business hours. For most people, from a pure IT perspective, most requests are a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 8, whatever your business hours are. They're normal type desktop support, normal facilities type requests. They're going to be within your business hours, but most organizations always have some critical issues that you're going to want to exceed your business hours. You're going to want to violate. You're not going to want to be 9 to 5 on those. Oh, this is a critical issue that came in via email or came in via web, and you wanted to go ahead and ignore the fact that it's past 8 p.m. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, but you have a system down and it's going to affect you, and you need to be jumped on right away. So instead of waiting to send an email notification until 8 a.m. the next day, it'll go ahead and send an email notification out now because it needs to be fixed ASAP. These are going to be your business hours. Work order priorities. For most people, your event policies will be driven by these work order priorities here. Not the only way to do it. You can also do it by work order types, by department, by location, by a combination of priority and location, or priority department, or priority and work order type, or work order type and location, or work order type, location, and priority, or any combination thereof. Again, there's no limit to track it. Again, most people keep it pretty simple. Again, you don't need to make anything any more complex than absolutely necessary to make yourself and your technical team more efficient and deliver good metrics and determine your performance as you move along via reporting and dashboarding and grid views. But your priorities are your basics there, and your work order types, another one of your basic elements for setup. What type of work do you do? From an IT perspective, you have hardware issues, you have software issues. Oftentimes you're going to set it up like that. These are my work order types. You'll have, as in priorities, will be a clean slate when you install Trackit. Your work order types will be a clean slate. These are all of your own design. They're your work order types, whatever makes sense to your organization. I like splitting out the printing and security. If you're medical, if you're legal, or any number of different organizations, if you're a public company, you're subject to a lot of cool stuff like HIPAA potentially, or SOX, and you might want to separate out security for that reason. If you have a separate team that handles server issues, you might want to separate that out. You might want to separate out telecom. Again, totally up to you. If you have HR and facilities using Trackit, oftentimes, most organizations I've seen, they have a single type for the non-IT groups that are using Trackit. I have a facilities type here, and then I have it broken down to facilities-related subtypes, and then under there I have facilities-related categories. So Trackit is hierarchical. It's all point and click here. Configuration makes it very easy to set up and configure. You can come back and tweak and modify these at any point in time. You'll save your historical types that you changed names or eliminated entirely in your work order history while dynamically changing names. So Trackit is very easy to configure and get up and running, but it's also very easy to change as you move along. It's not rocket science, does not require anybody to babysit facilitate it or admin it on a regular basis. It's very easy to use. Work order templates, I usually don't get into that here, and there's going to be no exception there. A few other basics here as I move into the Helpdesk module and close my See Also there over on the right side. Your work order statuses beyond your priorities. Again, same thing. Left side here, See Also. These are shortcuts to set up items for your Helpdesk. Work order statuses, skill routing policies, event policies. Here is your grid view. It's your list of tickets in this particular case. You have a lot of options. Just right click. You can determine whether or not you want a preview pane and where you want that preview pane. You want a preview pane all over on the right side. You want it on the bottom. You want it at all. I'm going to go with none for now and give you a full screen of my work orders. What columns do you want in your grid view? Any piece of data that's in a work order can be added as a column to your grid view. Do that from Customize. Do you want certain tickets to stand out, the color highlighting? For instance, you want the critical tickets based on the column priority when that column equals critical. Do you want those tickets, do you want the cell, not the whole row, but the cell, to be bright red with a white, bold font? If so, we'll configure a rule that looks exactly like the one that I have here. And that's going to result in me being able to scroll through all 3,785 tickets, but very quickly spin the wheel on my mouse and see the critical ticket that stands out. I can also see the tickets where I'm the assigned tech, and the tickets are highlighted where I'm the requester. I can also see my HR tickets very quickly in this tan color that takes up the whole row. And we'll go into one of these for now. Take a look at that. I have notes, all with date and timestamps. I have my work order types over here on the left side. My requester up at the top. Asset record if associated with the work order here. Let's go into a new work order. Get an idea of what a new work order looks like. This is what one would look like if you're responding to a phone call or a walk-up. If the ticket did not come in automatically via email monitor, or if it did not come in automatically via self-service web, and it did not automatically email the tech support team that was automatically assigned when it came in via one of those automations. Text answering the phone. Who's on the phone? Mike Johnson. Fantastic. Well, let me bring up an important point here. Even without a user, even before I enter a user here to this ticket, or an asset, assigned to tech support, has an expected completion date, it has a due date. I've created two workflow rules to kick off automatically. So routing policy, I have a default. Event policy, I have a default. Most of my issues, I figure, maybe 70%, maybe 80%, are desktop support in nature. Those are handled by my tech support team, or that's the assigned technician via my skill routing policy. I expect to complete those within 24 hours. This value here, expect completion date. They're due based on service level agreements within 48 hours, so I set that automatically. The event policy, default event policy, this also keys off my escalation rules. Does this work order automatically escalate when this date is passed, when this date is passed, or X number of minutes, hours, days prior to either one of these times? Does it automatically escalate to a manager, or back to a team, or to a senior tech, or from level 1 to level 2? Does it escalate multiple times, from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to a manager? Level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3, level 3 to level 4, level 4 to a manager. I don't know of anybody that's using Trackit that has that level of complexity set up. It's available for you if you need it, though. Again, almost everything I'm showing you here is capabilities. Almost none of this is required. Again, keep it as simple as possible to make you more efficient as a team, an IT team, a facilities team, wherever you are that's utilizing Trackit. Now, all you need to do is set up a couple of extra policies that are exceptions to your rule. Technical support, what if you have facilities using Trackit? Well, you want that assigned to a facilities team. In this case, facilities in Tampa. Facilities in Tampa implies that I have facilities in other locations. That would be a correct assumption. I select Melissa Soden here as our requester, and it automatically triggers an assignment to facilities in Woodbridge. Why? Because Melissa is in the Woodbridge location. And there's location in when we imported her from Active Directory, and then I created a rule that not only looked at the type, but looked at the location as well to properly assign the ticket to the correct location. If this is Raphael's ticket, well, that's going to be assigned direct to Chuck. Well, that's another rule entirely. What happened there? Well, Raphael is a member of the executive team. But now we're overriding the skill routing and assigning him directly to a senior person for facilities. What happens when we go to software? Well, that's going to Julie Kearney. Again, the executive hardware request there for Julie. Actually, it's beyond hardware. It's hardware and software. I've mislabeled that. Either way, it's assigned to Julie. Raphael is a member of the senior team, so he gets assigned directly to senior tech. You also may have noticed he gets a tighter due date, tighter expected completion date. Same thing for Tom Banta. He's also a member of the executive team. You come in here and see, now we're looking at the type of the department. Actually, we're looking at just the department. Cheating there a little bit. Change this back to me as the requester. Goes back to tech support. It has the regular due date and expected completion date there. Now, what else could change? The dates, due date, expected completion date. Well, critical would be an obvious one. We may trigger an automatic tighter due date, tighter expected completion date. That's the easy way to do that. But even without a priority triggered, for instance, a lot of people like to remove the priority field from self-service web. You can fine-tune the fields that are available in self-service web, either via view or via the work order form that the users submit. So oftentimes you want to take away that from self-service web, because otherwise your users are going to tend to select critical. Even if that's not available, you could distinguish a ticket that is for an email issue, for instance, systems, which would assign system administration by environment, email, and a request to add somebody to a distribution list, which would trigger the default event policy, and a report of slow email, which would trigger the default event policy. Request to create a new email address. You kind of get the idea. A default event policy. No priority set. How about system down? Oh, still no priority. Tighter due date, tighter expected completion date. Now the nature of the issue itself is driving the urgency. Different event policy, tighter due date, tighter expected completion date, potentially different escalation rules, potentially more hyperactive email notification rules. Send more emails faster to the requester, to the assigned technician, to the escalation point, maybe send a close notification for all critical issues or all system down issues automatically to the manager to review how those critical issues were handled, whether they were handled in a timely fashion or not. Again, entirely up to your design, how you want to build that out. Summary is pretty straightforward. These are your priorities here. These are your statuses here, the ones that you created early on. The green pluses are cool. If I forgot a priority and I'm an admin and track it, I can add one on the fly. If I have email and I don't have enough categories in here, I could add a category on the fly. You could also use security policies and track it to lock these down. Maybe you want to give rights only to the admins to those green pluses. They're very powerful. Maybe you want to give your regular techs, your desktop support folks, for instance, access to just one of them, the requester, which is very common within our track it user base, and allow them to add users on the fly, be outside contractors or somebody else who wasn't brought in via AD. Promise you I'm going to talk about inventory right now. So here we go. These machines, these assets that you see here at the drop down, these are the assets that are associated to me. Most of these were done automatically, some of them were done manually, but most of them were as a result of auditing. Since they were my machines, they automatically associated to me. Most cases in your environment, for most users anyway, you'll see a one-on-one relationship. So I change a requester to Derek, I see one asset in the drop down. And we'll change it back to me, because I like looking at mine, I know what's on them. They look cool, they have lots of stuff, and I can show off all the stuff the track collects. So, in the interest of making your text more efficient, we have a lot of ways to do that right here within Trackit and in what Trackit does. So the requester is here, the asset is here. You saw me double click on the requester a couple times earlier. I can double click on the asset record here as well. I want to see the notified that the audit is up to date. And it did not run this morning. I'll actually have to look and see why it didn't run this morning. Maybe I didn't shut off. I don't recall. But anyway, if your audit's a little bit out of date, that's okay. All the tech has to do is click Audit Now right here, and it's up to date. If you want to see audit history, click down and select any of the previous audits. If you want to see the hardware, that's over here in the hardware tree. Serial number, workstation name, model, manufacturer, CPU type, model, speed, and serial number, operating system and service pack version, total memory, free memory as of the last audit run, what do you have in each memory slot on the machine, boom, there it is. You might need to upgrade. Maybe you're troubleshooting a performance issue. Do you have room to add memory? Is the machine already tweaked? Hard drives, local drives, potentially network drives, serial numbers on those. Networking information. This is from the last logged on user value in the Windows registry. This is how we associate users to workstations automatically. Good stuff. There's my network card and IP address. Oh, there's other IP addresses. What's that? I'm running VMs on this machine. You have multiple, they're going to show. Definitely going to be the case on a server, along with those MAC addresses. Monitor, mouse, keyboard, printers, network printers, local printers. There is a network mapped printer. Here is an IP mapped printer. There's my local USB printer. All those are going to be picked up. Video card, other port information, sound card buried there. Since it's not separate, it's built into the motherboard. So everything in Device Manager and beyond. It's going to log changes, things that were added or removed, all the software that's on the machine. Everything in add and remove programs or programs and features. We're going to go to the Windows registry. We're going to look at the uninstall key and the installer's key. That's what populates add and remove programs, programs and features. We're going to then allow you to organize. Everything initially is going to come into one giant bucket called unidentified. You can then organize it into different categories to slim down what you have and improve supported. We're going to track software history, so you can narrow down right here within a record to just the existing software on the machine. And narrow that down further. What's going to go into the approved supported section is going to be things you paid for and things that come up in Helpdesk tickets. You didn't specifically, or I didn't specifically, for instance, let's open this up here again to all. I didn't specifically pay for Service Pack 3 or MS Office 2007 Service Pack 2. However, it's important to break fix operations given the reporting of certain errors potentially. And then guess what? Right here from the asset, which I got to from the ticket, if I want more detail in that application, it's just a double click away. I now have all of the users and all of the machines that are running Service Pack 2. There's my username there, user location, and the asset name here. So good stuff. Guess what? I mentioned very early on during the slideshow, you could print from grid views. This is a grid view. They can all be customized. That's common. What columns do I want on my grid view? They could all be printed from or exported to. I can print what I see right here. I can export this to text, Excel, or HTML. Excel is the most common. It's a no-brainer. It obviously looks like Excel. Stands the reason you'd be able to export it from Excel, and it is certainly the case. So again, it increases the efficiency of your technician. Again, another cool feature here, if you want to go with this option, is the remote control feature. All I have to do is select the machine here, click the Take Control button right there, and it immediately puts me out on the desktop of that workstation. And it looks like WebEx is going to fight me a little bit on that. Resource hog as it is. But that'll come up in just a moment. And again, I want to reiterate, folks, I am going a little bit long this afternoon with the volume at the end, but I will answer all of your questions.
Alright guys, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this video because it's it's going into different modules now, taking control of the other computers and all that, you might not be using this module, or you might be using something different for that. But in our case, which was for JavaSkillshare.com, the Helpdesk Support Specialist course, this part was the main part where he was explaining, like, assigning a ticket to different departments. How is it basically different places when you click on the user, and it automatically picks another place like Woodbridge, or if there's another office somewhere else, so that will pick it automatically. And the most important part for you guys is to learn how to basically assign tickets to a right department, and how to close it, how to open it, how to run a report or search for a ticket. These are the main things that you guys want to look into it. So this was it for this video. It's quite a big video, kind of good details about it, and it kind of gives you a very good pictures of how BMCTrack IT is basically, how's it coming from the base and the core of it. So that you guys can learn a lot from it, and I will put the links on our site, which is basically right here. Like I said, this is going to be a summary video. You don't want to go through a big video, you just want to go through quickly how to create ticket and stuff like this. Was done by me, and on the bottom I'll put the one from the original BMCTrack IT video, which I'm gonna put it on the bottom, and then I'll put the links in there too, so you guys can access it. And after this will be the ServiceNow ticketing system training is also in there, but after this we'll do other ones like always ticketing, Spikesworks, and all that. And you know what, once we're done with like 6-7 of it, we'll stop with ticketing system training. Because if you can do 6 or 7 ticket training, and somebody asks you about how do you know how to do a ticketing, how to create a ticket, you should be able to know after this. So thank you for watching, and I'm gonna stop this video right now, and that's it. Thank you.